ex parte unilaterally pick out, but they've already asked for several. I think I'm going to read them very quickly and maybe just try and make a comment. Only the ordinary concerned over other people's bad habits, and only the double-dipped, deep-fried, ordinary care about those there's the bad habits that they themselves have already abandoned. Think about that. If that were true, if that were not some kind of, I don't know, allegory or lie, what would civilization be doing? What we would be up to our necks and out of work ministers, priests, rabbis, and other decent people. If that were true, what would happen to the market for advice? Think about it. You'd be left, many of you, holding short. Think of all the advice you have back at the ordinary level, back in your old vehicle. It's just loaded down. The old kind of shit that you left in the car, that stuff's still there. Somebody's got to be responsible. Well, if you go back and open the door and get in, you're responsible. But think about all the advice that you would have left over. I mean, it'd probably back up on you. You'd probably need some kind of cathartic, or I didn't want to say laxative. So just be thankful that, my friends, has got to be, God help us, an allegory. Surely. Or else advice would just... Come to think about it, it'd be even worse than us being up to our necks and unemployed priests and rabbis and etc. We'd be up to our necks in abandoned, unused advice. Which, I mean, is enough of it now, is there not? Does anybody here have you ever felt in your life a shortage of advice? Have you ever had to call somebody, or your mother, an old friend, and say, by the way, I've just noticed the last couple of weeks nobody's giving me any advice, and I don't know, I feel it's like a junkie. I'm about to go cold turkey. Could I have some advice? What if this were true? Friends, you'd have to be pulling up your pants leg everywhere you step would be advice. There was another one similar to that one, by the way. Well, all right. Those who want to beat up on religion, the arts, and any of the other manifestations of man's intellectual life, the full spectrum of civilization, culture. But religion is a good one that people love to pick on once they're wired up to think, yes, I'm smarter than the average bricklayer. Well, what's the first thing they want to do? Or they can get out of town. They go away from Omaha or Jackson, Mississippi, and go to a real college, not a state university. What's the first thing they do once they get sophisticated? They pick on religion. Come back home, and especially get even with your old man if he's a Southern Baptist or an Episcopalian, a decent person. First thing you do is maybe come in and smoke a little joint or something and say, I no longer believe in God. Figure, get it to him, which is just a variation of beating up on religion. Those who want to beat up on religion, the arts, and any of the other manifestations of man's intellectual life are the supreme vacuous bullies, in that they cannot find another human smaller mentally than they are to pick on. Another one, using religion as an example. Remember, that's just an example, one of the best wrap-up examples of man's culture. According to this item, one man thought, the trouble with those who want to do away with religion is that they don't have anything to replace it that's not dumber than they are. Somebody make a note of page 42 to remind me of something. Don't lose your place. I just trying to wrap up these before I hit the big one. All right, all of these, consider, again, as all of you know by now, it's not an attack of any kind, and we're not singling out religion, but since I brought it up, and one of the news items did anyway, just take it as being the best example. It's not a negative thing. It is the best, in a positive sense, as far as being able to have something exemplary of which we can speak overtly about man's culture. Instead of just saying culture because everybody can dream, oh yes, it's something vague. This religion wraps it up. It is the arts, it's architecture, it's literature, it's ritual, it's civility, it's decency, it's tradition, it's history. It's just the best example. And so consider, and of course it is the world's extreme hobby. This news item, if it's not ridiculous, it is not a real hobby. But if it does not have the potential to seem serious, ordinary men won't even take it up. Now, I guess if you're ordinary, you would think, well, there's no doubt religion can seem serious. If you're ordinary, of course, you would think that religion is already serious. But consider all the other hobbies to make it. If a man takes up a hobby, stamp collecting. Now, if you don't collect stamps, let's consider, is that ridiculous or what? Especially if you've ever been in a hurry in the post office trying to mail a letter, trying to get in your tax or something, and there's somebody in front of you, they go up there and spend 10 minutes, and they have them pulling out sheets of stamps, and you suddenly realize, well, they're not even going to mail anything. They're one of those philatelist stamp collector. And they're standing there looking at these things and holding them and saying, well, let me see another one. And they're looking at a bunch of stamps. I mean, stuff you look, and they're collecting them. And they're putting their glasses and studying. They got big old fat books, if you don't know, that cost mucho bucks, that you got nothing but listing of stamps and how much they're worth. And the guy's taking his book. And you can say, well, is that ridiculous or what? Of course, if it's not your hobby, if it is, of course, ignore all this. Just tune out until we get to something serious. So it has got to seem, it's got to have the potential to seem serious, even though a man does not look at a hobby once he starts it and think, well, this is ridiculous, but it's got to have the potential that I can make it seem serious, or at times think that I personally might think it might become serious, or I won't pick it up. Of course, men don't think that. But that is what it is. Now, since most of you laughed at stamps, and if you didn't, fill in your own version, collecting records, collecting clothes, anything. But then go into the areas that would seem to be, from the beginning, serious, such as religion, which is simply a hobby. Anything that's intellectual is a hobby. Anything that is not required, as per these kind of news items, anything that is not absolutely de rigueur to stay physically alive is a hobby. And that's no offense. And just don't argue with it if you're going to try and see it. If it's not food, it's not sex, it's not staying alive, it's a hobby. So religion would be a hobby. But now consider, from one view, again, what can be more ridiculous than religion, other than psychoanalysis, which I started to use. But what can be more ridiculous, what can be, than people to tell you things that they don't know about and will admit it? To give you to state as facts, to put their hand, which is an institution of religion, that was now a news item, to put their hand firmly on the small of your back, such as most people won't, and then you, the rest of your life, I'm not a woman, but then you dance backwards, that somebody else leads you the rest of your life. That's what you want. But think about how ridiculous it is that you say, I'm afraid to die, I'm sick. A priest or a rabbi, or from another view, an analyst with a slightly different question. But you say, I'm afraid to die. And he says, that's all right. Just join the church, and when you die, you're not really dead. Are you sure? Well, no, I'm not sure. What? Oh, yes, I'm sure. Or if you say, well, can I have some proof of this? Oh, we got no proof. Wait a minute. You want 10% of what I make. You want me to pay so much for a seat here every week. You want me to help build it? Yes. But you're telling me that I will not die after I die. That's really not all that bad. I'm not going to just disappear and make my mind hurt. Oh, no. Would you have any proof at all? Well, no, we don't have any at all. Now, you can look at that as being a terrifically splendid insult. It's an affront to anybody's intelligence, but it's also ridiculous. We're not attacking, it's just funny. Think about it. And we're not laughing at them, because for every priest or rabbi you got, I don't know what, you got 10,000 followers. And back at your old condo somewhere, you were one of them, so we're not laughing at priests or those running religions, because they're a small part of it. We're laughing at everybody else. It is ridiculous. But it has to have the potential to seem serious. Of course, you notice it didn't go on, which I was about to say, wait a minute, I thought all that, but how can it have the potential to seem serious if we've established beforehand that if it's a hobby, it is ridiculous? Hey, I'm just here to analyze it. Oh, and it was from the sports desk, it was some scores. We're still ahead. I really hate to fool with that one. That humans are still ahead. We're still ahead. No matter what happens, we're still ahead. Now, ordinary people could dispute that. Ordinary people would be sitting here and saying, well, I'm sick. Okay, we're all sick. Then they could take one of the other news items and say, wait a minute, I just found out I have an advanced terminal illness. Are you alive now to tell me that? Yes. Then you're still ahead. As long as a person can hear the news, this 3 word, it's the scores, it's the sports scores. We're still ahead. 3 words. If you can hear that, there is no retort to that. Not unless you're ridiculous. No matter what you say, if you can hear that, that means you're alive. And if you're alive, we're still ahead. No matter what you say. You can say, well, I'm going to die tomorrow. All right, tomorrow, the scores, I guess, will be different. Assuming you're correct that tomorrow you will be dead, then if we read this score tomorrow, the same scores, and I read it, we're still ahead, and you're dead, then it's not applicable. I'll agree. But do note this, you won't know. So it's still true. I thought you'd understand that. Before I get to one more before the heart of tonight's analysis. Seen from the perspective of a real thinker, seriousness always implies some kind of complaint. All right, I lied to you. That's going to be the wrap-up. No, that should be, though. That should be the one. Several times of late I've tried to start off, which tonight was going to be another version, of trying to get you to consider what we've been meaning by the news, the use in the news of the word serious and seriousness. All seriousness is a form of criticism. All seriousness, let me just start hitting some. All seriousness is a living example that the serious person is alive. All seriousness is emblematic that civilization is marching forward. All seriousness is a sure sign of mental, physical, emotional health for humanity. Seriousness is everything above, you might say, the limbic system, the hormonal system of man. Everything above that, seriousness implies, evidences that this is alive. Because from here down, seriousness is moot. I mean, it's got to be serious or you'd be dead anyway. You've got to be serious about eating and etc. But at that level, you don't talk about it, and so seriousness doesn't really exist. There is no choice. A lion has no choice to be serious or not be serious. If it did, as per cartoons would have it, if you had a lion that was, goofy, if you had a lion that was not serious about lioning, then he will not be lioning very long. He will be checkered out, cashiered out. He will be done for, terminated. They will take away his lion card. He will be dead meat. So it's not a choice. An animal, and man too, from the hormonal level down, there's no question about, well, will I be serious? If you're sane, if you plan to live, yes, you're serious, but you don't even talk about it. Since you can't talk anyway, but if you could, hormonally, you don't talk about, should I be serious about staying healthy? Give us a break. So seriousness in the sense it exists, which is only verbal, is from here up. And all seriousness from here up would be the same kind of evidence that if we looked at it from the hormonal level down, just physically, non-verbally, silent, you look at somebody, a lion or a human, and they look healthy. If you could just sort of feel, smell their aroma, their glow, their look, that they're just healthy, then they're serious. But from here up, seriousness also implies that kind of health, but it also implies something else. all seriousness hides within it a complaint of some kind. But this is not a complaint about the condition, remember. This is not a criticism of the condition. It's people just don't realize it. But once you realize that, then everything that people talk about, for you to fall into the sort of ordinary dance arrangements that are made in life, and you begin to pick out here and there. Or you seem to pick out. It's picked out for you. And remember, life with this little hand up your knickers, and you go. But at any rate, you think that you pick out certain aspects of life to criticize, that there are certain things other people do that deserve to be taken seriously and some that don't. Once you realize that all seriousness hides, within all seriousness is some form of a complaint. And you realize that's the way it is, and it's natural. It is a healthy sign. That's what keeps the intellectual life of man going at that level, is everybody's bitching. Everybody's trying to peck one another to death, trying to gum one another to death. They're like a bunch of mad ducks or chickens. Everybody's a critic. Everybody's a Philistine. But that's not an attack. Everybody that's healthy is a Philistine. It's not just sick people. It's not just the untalented. It's not just the coarse and the crude and the witless. Although it includes them, so that I don't want any of you to think none of us are being left out. But it is not limited to that. If you're alive and part of the middle class, the middle of the same bell curve of life, then you're a critic. You're a Philistine. Because you're serious. And all seriousness, any piece of seriousness, anytime you turn to somebody, or just in your own mind that you respond to something in a serious way, within that seriousness is some form of a complaint. That's the only reason you're serious. Well, I wish I could find that. I wish that man that said that politician or that newscaster, I wish I could get to him. And I mean, he seems rather intelligent, but what he's trying to point out about how the government still in some of the former communist countries, governments in Eastern Europe are now, even under the guise of free elections, are bringing the same people back to power. The observation he made, as sharp as he is, he missed it. I mean, I wish I could talk to him in person. Serious business. And it sounds as though I would like to share my view with him. I'd like to point out, because I'm sure he could see it. You do hear, I was trying to get one up close just enough, that it can sound as though it's an intellectual, almost an objective observation that one makes. But if it's serious, which almost all humans, ordinary conversation is serious, if it's any more than 2 or 3 words like, does a crosstown bus run all night long? What time is it? But anything of any length becomes serious. It is serious, or people would not be talking past 2 or 3 words to one another. Within it, it can appear to be an objective statement of some kind of fact. But within it is always a complaint. Once you understand that, then you understand you've got to be an idiot to complain about other people's complaints. To say, well, good God, people don't do anything but whine. People just always bitching. I can't hardly stand it anymore. But at least I'm glad we're not on that recently discovered planet where they found out that the thinking creatures, the ones running it. Did you hear that tonight? They didn't ask. But they said that those creatures, the ones when they were talking and didn't know what they were talking about, would make hand gestures. I didn't think I'd have to be that crude. All right, here's where we're going ahead. Maybe I'll pick it up next time. I was threatened that this could almost be a wrap again on the matter of seriousness. A wrap up, but it may not be, since we're getting short of time. But here was what it was, the one that I had picked out. A man thought, I'm not so much bothered by people's stupidity as I am about how serious they are about it. Now let's start off right quick, just an ordinary view. Think about the many things that you could say are the stupidities of man. It would be easy enough for many people nowadays to pick out religion, especially the more fundamental kinds, but many religion, just religion in general. A man could say it is stupidity. And the man could even first try and mea culpa himself in the sense of saying, I am not a critic of religion. I am not in any way personally, passionately anti-clerical. And he could then give some short enumeration or even a link to one of the history of the damage the ordinary people of many times critics have said that religion has done. He could point out, here it is, as you know, it's in the news. Here we are, the middle of 1993, and there's just been another so-called religious cult gone up in flames. People killed because of some religious fanatic and their followers go down with him or her. You notice there's a dearth of women doing this. I want to see some equality. I want to see more women fanatics. Just trying to join in the spirit of the times. At any rate, what I want you to follow is right quick, just since we start on religion, pick it again. It would be easy enough. And from an ordinary view, it would not be totally without any merit, but a man, let's say another man, quite civilized people, quite educated, a man could say, religion at its most fundamental level is a form of stupidity. I mean, look at the number of people that's been murdered in the name of religion. Look at the way that it holds back people's attempt to better themselves. A person will say, well, I don't care about life right now. I'm older and I don't know what else to do with my life. I'll just wait till after I die. And then the gods will straighten it out. My God, Jehovah will straighten it out. All right, from all kinds of views. Again, a man could be taking what would appear to be at that level a rather non-critical view to start with. He could say, well, my parents, my father is a minister. My mother is very religious, and so I'm not picking on people specifically because of religion. I'm just trying to point out, says the man, the stupidity. It serves no purpose. It hurts people. Look at the damage. Look how many thousands of millions of people, perhaps, or at least hundreds of thousands that the Catholic Church killed during the Inquisition, that recent unpleasantness. Look what happened even up in New England after the founding fathers got over here and foundered around. And look at what people are doing now. But even look at people are sitting in churches, people handling snakes, and there's a new church we just heard about down in Mississippi. Instead of them handling snakes, they handle transmissions out of trucks. Rather obscure cult, but I thought maybe. Let me try and get to the point. All right, you could take religion, you could take politics, you could take the arts. You could have a man say the stupidity of the arts. That the government spends my money. They take my taxes and they spend on the arts. People are out holding serious discussions. I see these things on TV, or I see people all dressed up and coming up in limousines. And they're going there to look at a bunch of paintings and you can't even tell what the hell it means. It's stupid. And it's hurting people. I mean, this is, pick out, collecting stamps. Somebody is spending their money. I followed this man home. He lives in a house trailer. The guy that was there in the post office. I saw his kids running around with holes in their clothes. And I saw that man. I stood there in line waiting on him, and I saw that man spend $50 on stamps, and I can look at the way he lives. He couldn't afford it. Anything in life that is part of men's hobbies, part of civilization, part of culture, you can turn from an ordinary view, no matter who you are, and pick out the stupidity of certain things. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. You know I'm right? They're right. Except this. The stupidity. Just linger on it a second before you think that I am attacking, because that's not going to change. People have always turned around to other people, to other forms of behavior. And they could see the stupidity of certain forms. Some of it institutional stupidity almost, but just stupidity. Why don't people get over this? Why don't people get over believing there is some blind holdover from the Greeks' idea of Mars kind of God? Some vengeful, some narrow-minded God that's just going to kill us all, making life, just pick that out. And you could say, well, there's no doubt, at that level, that's a form of stupidity. Here's the question. You want to linger one more second? Did I make enough examples? Don't just get hung on religion. Just all sorts of things. Human relationships, love, romance, trying to get rich, trying to increase your social position, You can take it from all kinds of views. You just turn around every sane human. And the more sane they are in the ordinary sense, the more that seems to be a valid observation. They might not want to use the word stupid, but they would know what I mean. The stupidity of man. It's just a fact. The human comedy. Ha, ha, ha. That's what ordinary men, except they have a certain strong, inseparable amount of sarcasm in that. Irony, cynicism. The stupidity of man in specific areas. In general, but in specific areas you can see, such as religion. Spending too much money on avocations, hobbies. Pursuing arts, pursuing things that have no relationship to life. Things that just are serving no purpose. It's stupidity. Fighting over politics. People starting off with some reasonable debate and they end up on the floor fist fighting. Or men in bars fighting over, well, who's going to win the World Series this year? This stupidity. Okay. We've all got that right. The guy said, the news item, he said it wasn't so much the stupidity. I mean, he just treated that as a given. A deed done. A fait accompli. The stupidity of man. He said that it wasn't so much the stupidity that bothered him, but how serious people took it. See, he kind of upped the stakes. It was bad enough back to religion. The stupidity of believing in some kind of blind religion that somebody's got to tell you exactly what to do, and that life's unfair, and there's a guy that's just watching you all the time, just looking for excuses to mistreat you, and if you don't do exactly right, he's going to mistreat you even worse when you die, and then after that you can't die and get out of it, he'll mistreat you throughout eternity. So the man can say, God, is that stupid? But he said what bothered him even worse than that was how serious people took it. Here's the question. We push it up to where there's only a few minutes left. Maybe I should push it up to where there's only 30 seconds left so I can ask you the rhetorical question and then grab my coat and run. From almost any view, there's the stupidity of man. You can put the whole term in quotation marks. In general, the stupidity of man. And you can do the subdivisions of the individual, the more specific stupidities of the arts, of religion, of seeking fame, of being concerned about your social position. Right. The stupidity of man. It's not in question, is it? Nobody even thinks about it. The stupidity of man. If you can't think, well, I can't think of any stupidity, go open a damn history book, you idiot. Just open the page. There it is. The stupidity. So we got that. The question is this. Taking any example I made or any you can think of, that's why I gave you a few seconds. Let me ask you this. The worst example of the stupidity of man that you can think about. What harm has it done any man? Now, you can't be ordinary, so it's done a lot, or you missed it. A man right now. Forget history now. Forget in general. Now we're down to a level that it has some meaning, some operational validity that you can use. Right now, you know a man, a friend of yours, or maybe somebody you just met, that turns out he is a fundamentalist, religious fanatic. Maybe a distant relative of yours that you see every now and then, every few years, and you think, God, the stupidity, and you feel so bad about it maybe. And plus it frightens you about the nature of life. That this man, I happen to know, the man graduated from college. In fact, he teaches in a junior college right now. In some way he is able to keep those fundamentalist, radical, insane religious views evidently out of the classroom and nobody knows about it. But I know him, I'll sit around and start talking to him, and the man, stupidity done begin to cover it. It's frightening. What the hell harm's it done him? If you don't watch it, he'll outlive you. That's not the point. You see him, you're 50, he's 50. He seems to be in as good a health as you, except you never you never assume any position in which you question, and I say you, anybody, the stupidity of man. Let's leave it at the term stupidity of man. Except the question was, look at somebody individual now, not history. Because that's, don't go back and say, well, it hurt the 10,000 people that the Catholic Church, or whatever, the 2,000 they killed right outside Barcelona in a period of 2 years. You can say, well, it hurt them. Look at a person that you look right now, that there are people still, because your view would be, for it to have any contemporary validity, it wouldn't be just your attack on the Catholic Church, for instance, or religion. It'd have to be, wait a minute, I know a guy right now that is as religiously fanatical as Cardinal Fang and the people that burnt these people and dipped them in, not shit, oil, water, whatever they dipped them in, hot grease. The stupidity is right now. That's the only thing that seems to have any bearing, and you think, this man is exemplary of the stupidity of humanity. The very thing that's going to ruin us all, the things that holds back civilization. A man to be this stupid. I've talked to him. He's got a college education. He can talk some about football. But then you mention something about religion, or you get into morals, and he goes absolutely insane. I was calling it stupid, you could call it insane, but you could say, the man, how stupid? How can somebody be ordinarily as intelligent he seems in many areas, and then be so stupid that I say, you literally believe you're going to die, and you'll immediately be following some big old long line, you're going to walk up and there's a guy with long hair, yeah, going to be a white man, yeah, and he'll have long hair, yeah, and he'll be real big, yeah, and he'll speak English, oh sure, and you believe that, yeah, and he's going to have a book that wrote down everything. Somebody wrote down everything you've ever done or thought. Sure. Wait a minute. You literally believe that. Well, sure I do. And he looks at you like you're an idiot, and you think, how stupid. And it's not just a joke now. Think about it from the ordinary view. People take that, for them to analyze it at all, for a second thought, they consider that extremely serious. That this is the very kind of stupidity that's holding civilization back. Oh, really? Compared to what? I mean, it's not going fast enough for you. Civilization's not moving right along. Nobody ever thinks about it. Because, of course, there is no answer. Because you can't say compared to what. There is none compared to what. But if they had any sense, you could say it's not moving fast enough for you. And if they had any ability to think, they'd realize, ooh, because for an ordinary view, it's always moving too fast. Except it is just part of the sounds that the machinery of life makes as it moves along to say, well, the stupidity of humanity is what's holding us back now. What a bubbling, for somebody to think that and call somebody else stupid. Of course, we're getting down to the level, are you putting on another table? It is absolutely part of the machinery of life. I just want to be sure that you understand that although ordinary people make it as an attack, to talk about the stupidity of life, the stupidity of other men in specific ways that they never question. They're not supposed to, but in specific ways such as very limited view religions. That's just a great example of how stupid. And by any ordinary view, you can't defend it. You say, well, you're right. It's a good thing there are not more fanatics like him that actually think like that. I mean, that's so stupid, it's dangerous. And they're serious about it. And everybody's there, including you. If they'll let you go, yeah, no doubt. What do you mean, no doubt? It's beyond the point of anti-no doubt. You're as stupid as they are. You're just part of the same herd. Because ask yourself, that was where I started to grab my coat and leave it. You'd look and ask yourself, what harm has it done the stupid person? None. We're talking about ordinary stupid people. We're always talking about the ordinary sane people. But ordinary sane people are stupid. At least in one place. I mean just stupid. You know that. If it's not religion, it turns out that they are some kind of closet Nazi or fascist, or in their closet they dress up like a woman if they're a man. Everybody, just almost. There may be a few of us exceptions, but I was trying to make some of you feel good and let you think you're... In some way, everybody's stupid at the ordinary level. If you're alive and sane and part of the great, unwashed, middle-class herd driving life along, you're stupid somewhere. Of course, you're ordinary, you don't think so, and you're resented if somebody says so, but you do know that everybody else, including your family, just pick out people that you like. If your mother and father's too close, you probably got a brother or an uncle or somebody that you like or a friend. Except, at least in some area, the person is stupid. You might not ever want to say that. It's like misled to the point that, you're worried about them. Now, let's make sure that you can speak English and that you're a white man and got long hair. We'll make you God. You're worried about them. They're so stupid about this one area, except for this. The trick is, if you can just see it right quick, because there's not really much need for any more analysis, if any room, is just simply look and go, what harm's it done him? None. He's as old as you are. He's as healthy as you are. His mobile home is just as wide as yours. His wife has as many wigs as your wife does. His car is as model as yours. No harm. Except that, that doesn't prove anything to ordinary people, even if they would listen this far. Because the first part is the operative part at the ordinary level, is the stupidity of man. It's like part of the dream of the great adventure. Everybody does believe. That's part of the friction. That is part of the transfer of energy that keeps civilization going, keeps humanity going, is that large segments, the truth be, at least half, is how much segment is, half of the people besides you and me, half the rest of life, is stupid. The people, they do stupid things. They don't think correctly. They don't feel correctly. They're driven by their hormones. They have limited views. They have fanatical attitudes toward religion. They have unbelievable fascist feelings about politics. Just it goes on and on and on. Even people we know are stupid, almost dangerous. And I feel for them. Except, and I worry about it, except for this. Pick out him, all right, my uncle. This person I just met at a bar. That it just turns out, after we got to talking, the man is just absolutely insane in one area. And before I knew that, we'd stood here and had a few drinks and talked, and it turns out the man teaches over at the university where my son goes. And he seemed sane enough, and he's not drunk. It wasn't alcohol. And suddenly I brought politics. I brought religion. I brought something. And suddenly, it is like some sort of demon in the man. And I don't mean in a religious sense. Inside somewhere, the man is just nutso. That's frightening. Or find out, when those of you that like this, if you could end up at a bar talking to your mayor, your governor, politician, if you want to talk about crazy, a general, somebody with their finger on the button. We're talking about serious nutso. At any rate, and you go, that is frightening. Except for this, the stranger, the guy that just scares you to death, and you find he teaches over at the university. He teaches in a subject I almost majored in. My son, my daughter, the next generation, wax philosophical. The next generation is coming up under the tutelage of insane people like him. God, that's frightening. And so he shakes hands and leaves, and you look out there. He gets in a brand new Lincoln Town car, cranks it up, drives off. And you think about it. You talk to him, it turns out he's on tenure. He's been there teaching for 30 years, got several awards, driving a car. It turns out he told you where he lives. It's in a section of town you can only dream of. And yet he's crazy. He's stupid. What harm has it done him? None. Not if he's ordinary. We're not talking about the real ones or the derangees out setting fire to themselves. Everybody, ordinary people, are stupid. What harm has it done them? None. Back to the man, he said it's not so much he's bothered by people's stupidity. So I sort of cheated because that could have been, I started to make it 2 different items and spread them out over 2 nights or maybe a week or so. There'd been one, but it's not, guys say it's not so much people's stupidity that bothers me, but blah, 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 and I made up some other line. And then bring in, it's not so much people's stupidity, and then add it the next time, but how serious they are. What is stupidity? It's seriousness. And then you say, yeah, well, now you're making the point. Now I see how dangerous it is. No, you wasn't listening. It's not dangerous at all. And yet everything in your neural nervous system says it is. Any form of stupidity. Don't take mine. Listen to somebody else, or you pick out your own stupidity. and how dangerous it is. And then if you had the ability to be a nonpartisan thinker and go, well, what harm's it done the person? None. And of course, you're ordinary, you'd have to look around and go, oh, no, you know, like, it can't be true. It's not because you're stupid, it just simply can't be true. You could not see it in the view of the example I made up, that the guy, it turns out, shakes his hand, turns out he lives in a part of town, he has a reputation, he is a fine father, his family are just, you know, pillars of the community, his sons and daughters. Everything about the man is just first class. I mean, the kind of person that, if you're ordinary, you'd probably think, boy, I envy, boy, that's the kind of life I'd like. Except 2 or 3 minutes before, you'd already decided the man is stupid. I mean, seriously stupid, almost insane. What harm's it done him? And you can't see it, not if you're ordinary, because it cannot be true. And from the ordinary view, you're right. It can't be true. Because half the people have to think the other people, half the people at any given time are insane. I like stupid for the night, but you understand. That's all seriousness, remember, is lurking within all seriousness is some form of a complaint, that is criticism. And so everybody's serious with everybody else. And half the world's dancing with the other half, and they take turns leading and dipping and etc. So half of them are serious about the other half. That's the way the ordinary life transpires. There's got to be serious. You don't go in the tax office. You don't write the mayor. You don't go to buy something in a store. If it's, you know, as simple as a candy bar, or you go in to try to get a new title for your car, you cannot go in. It turned out to be Daffy Duck behind the counter. It's got to be serious. But all seriousness is also a form of criticism. And so all people who are serious are stupid. They're insane. The ordinary now, not the insane by the judgment of the ordinary. But the ordinary are insane. They just don't know it. But then the question is, well, what harm's it done them? None. Absolutely none. And yet, you're right, that can't be. Well, bye.